Mazzy's mix, Mazzy's drum mix number 15. These are those videos where I do a sort of a granola mix, trail mix video of some new releases, some used records. Actually, the used records from the Coleman collection. I just picked a handful that I'm keeping that I just really like, that are kind of rare and somewhat special rare editions, or at least harder to find than others. And there'll be some kind of featurette in the middle of here of some one artist feature. I like to do that. And just a little potpourri. I missed the Beatles because I had a drum lesson in 1966. How fucked up is that? Anyway, okay, let's get on with this. Thanks for watching. Mazzy here. Let's start with one of the latest tone poets. There is a Wayne Shorter that I have upstairs and I didn't bring down, which is more of his spiritual side of Wayne Shorter. But I'm not going to show that. I'm going to show this record. I played this last night twice, actually, and it's Lee Konitz plays with the Gerry Mulligan Quartet. Fantastic record. This is originally from some 10-inch records that were on Pacific Jazz, mostly that came out in 1953. Some of it's recorded in a home studio. There's a studio recording. There's a live set on side 2, or live couple of tracks on side 2. This actually performance is older than even Maslov here. The West Coast sound, and it's different than all the other tone poets. At least, obviously, I think there's been another Lee Konitz release as a tone poet last year, or the first year they started the series. Love is cover. It's not a gatefold because the World Pacific series were not gatefolds. Plus, they don't have session photographs. That's the main reason that the tone poets are gatefolds. But what I love about this, Lee Konitz and Gerry Mulligan, but of course the wonderful trumpet playing of Chet Baker is on here. So fabulous record if you like the West Coast jazz sound, a little different take on things, but it just really, I mean, you could say it, you could call it smooth, but it goes beyond that. It's just a different sound than the New York scene. So that's a favorite. Now, this was a very sweet surprise. Okay, another copy of John Lennon's Imagine, the white vinyl. People have been inboxing me, asking me, Maslov, are you going to get yet another edition? The Ultimate Mixes, 2 LP, white vinyl, 180 gram, limited edition. No, I did not pre-order it. And this came in an envelope from the UK. And how sweet is this? It came in an envelope, and this was included. And within that was this postcard, note card. And on the other side of that is this note, and it says, "To Mazzy, Imagine, love Yoko." Now, it was written, someone wrote this. I don't know if it was actually Yoko who wrote this, but the thought is there, the sentiment is there. I really appreciate the thought. Those of you who've been watching my channel for a while might recall earlier in the year when the Plastic Ono Band expanded set came out. Sean and Yoko out of the Yoko John Lennon office sent me comp copies of that. And I always tell people if I get free records, I don't get a lot. I pay for my records like most people here. This is not a pay-per-view, a pay-per-show type of situation. If I get something, free records as promotional records, I will mention it. But, so I'm mentioning it. Now, I have not listened to this one yet, but I've heard the remix versions of this record, the Ultimate Mixes, and it's definitely a style. I still prefer the original UK, mostly, even the American UK. I like the original mixes. But there is a new audience, maybe younger, that likes more bass, maybe a little more mid-range, but a little more pumped up sound, and the vocals added on and pushed ahead. And I look at it as a nice alternative. To me, it's not a replacement ever, but I like that. Obviously, It comes with these 2 postcards, and it comes with the full poster. I'm not going to open that up. And of course, it's got the main album and an album of the outtakes. And I really like this. And of course, it's on this beautiful Imagine white vinyl. So I want to thank Yoko and Sean and the Yoko Ono John Lennon office for this lovely package. Carrying right along, I did get the CD box of this, and I just started jumping into it. And this is the consumer vinyl version of Bob Dylan's Springtime in New York, the Bootleg Series, Volume 16, 1980 to 85. And this has alternate versions from infidels like Joker Man. It's got First Slippers, Shot of Love outtake, and it's got some Empire Burlesque outtakes as well. And this is a 2 LP collection. There is a 4 LP set with totally different music that Third Man has pressed, and I had pre-ordered that, so that should be coming. So the ironic thing is, all these are pre-orders that I literally, except for the Lennon record, everything here was pre-ordered literally months ago. And I haven't been buying records because I've been going through this whole Coleman collection, and there's plenty of music there to listen to and to curate and to go through. So this is kind of an interesting set. Love this period. I mean, Joker Man to me is it's a fantastic song, and I'm looking forward to push my way through this record. So Bob Dylan, I'm a fan of the whole bootleg series, and this is volume 16. I have all 16 volumes. An unreleased concert by Emmylou Harris is always a good thing from my point of view. This is Emmylou Harris, Nash Ramblers, and Ramble in Music City. It's Emmylou Harris, Sam Bush, Roy Husky, Larry Adamaniak, Al Perkins, and John Randall Stewart. This is recorded in 1990 at the Tennessee Performing Arts Center in Nashville. And this is a copy that I had pre-ordered also many months ago directly through the label Nonsuch that's been putting out her records over the last kind of 2 decades, I guess. And I got a signed print with this edition by Emmylou Harris. Obviously, I'm a huge Emmylou Harris fan, so looking forward to jumping into this great live set. I saw her on her first 2 tours in clubs when she came through San Francisco. That was the days with James Burton on guitar, Elvis Presley's great guitar player who also played with Graham Parsons. Loving this and loving anything by Emmylou Harris. This is the third, I think final, but who knows? They keep putting things out. This came in from France. This is like these DJs, DJ Yoshizawa Dynamite JP and Chintam Blow Up. And this is Wamoma A to Z Volume 3. This is Japanese funk, disco, and boogie, light mellow funk, disco, and boogie, 1978 to 1988. There are 3 volumes of this. I have the first 2, and I love it. A little disco, little Japanese pop in the beat section. I think these are fabulous covers. They're all the same. They're all variations of this illustration with different color palettes. A fantastic series. I don't know who's distributing these. I think maybe a Light in the Attic, maybe. Might, but I ordered it directly through their Bandcamp site, and I'm loving this. Complete Your Wamono. There you go. Fabulous cover, and really, these are just fun party records. This is good stuff. And lastly, in this series, as you know, I'm a big fan of Ry Cooder. Anything Ry Cooder works for me. And this is the 25th anniversary expanded edition of the Buena Vista Social Club. Ry Cooder produced with Nick Gold 25 years ago in Cuba. There's a documentary by Wim Wenders. Love this music, and there was offshoots of a live concert. There was some of the solo albums from the various members later on. But this was a huge Grammy winner, the 23rd anniversary edition. Just to let you know, 40-page book, 2 LPs, 2 CDs, 19 previously unheard bonus tracks, and 2 art prints. These are the 2 art prints. Cuba, and a lovely designed kind of folio type book. It has the tracks listed from the tape boxes. And then it has the book. And I'll just show a handful of the photographs. There's one of the sessions. Buena Vista Social Club. Ry Cooder introducing the world to this beautiful Cuban music. Not the first person, excuse me, but did it in a beautiful way and let these artists who had been sort of forgotten outside of their hometown, their home country, forgotten until this record, and brought them to Carnegie Hall with that great concert film. You check that out by Ben Benders. So here's a little featurette of an artist. Now, I don't have a complete catalog by this band or the central figure in this band. And I'm talking about Doug Sahm and the Sir Douglass Quintet. In terms of the 60s and the 60s rock scene, a lot of people always cite the 13th Floor Elevator as one of the early great bands coming out of Texas. Obviously, rightly so, 13th Floor Elevator with You're Gonna Miss Me, Rocky Erickson. And for me, the first band that I heard out of Texas was the Sir Douglass Quintet. And this album, what a great album. They were a mix. It came out of San Antonio, Texas. And later in the mid-60s, they relocated to San Francisco because of the whole San Francisco psychedelic rock scene. And Doug Sahm lived in the Bay Area for many years. The sound was pretty unusual at the time. It had that garage sound, but it came from a mix of rock and roll, garage, Tejano, Tex-Mex, soul, R&B, blues, and rock and roll. And the signature thing was Augie Meyer's Farfisa organ sound. That was a real big and attractive part, at least for me as a young boy growing up, for that sound. And Mendocino, which is a beautiful coastal city, 5 hours on the coast from San Francisco, I think, in California. That song of Mendocino, just a great, great sound. Just love that song. Sir Douglass Quintet. Mendocino on Smash Mercury Records. And the only other album I have of theirs is a later issue on Tacoma collection of Sir Douglass Quintet, the best of. They signed to Tacoma in the 1980s. Basically, they did a reunion album, and Tacoma put out a best of record. Tacoma was the record label founded by John Fahey, and had records by Leo Kottke, Sandy Bull, that primitive guitar sound. But obviously this was used to replicate the whole psychedelic poster scene of the mid-60s. And of course, not only was Mendocino a big hit for them in the 60s, She's About a Mover was a great, great, great song. So I'm a big fan. Every song by theirs is great. It's got a unique sound of the 60s. They seem to be somewhat of a forgotten band, but I would say, pick up anything you can by Sir Douglass Quintet and Doug Sahm. Now, after a stint in the Bay Area, during the Bay Area thing, Doug Sahm signed with Atlantic Records and put out this record. And this is Doug Sahm and Band. This got a lot of radio airplay in San Francisco at the time because he was hanging around, and these two records especially. Now, Bob Dylan is on this record, makes a guest appearance on a couple of tracks. It's got George Raines, Augie Meyer, Dr. John, David Bromberg, kind of a who's who. Mel Martin, a great late saxophone player, mostly soprano sax, but who had a band in the Bay Area a jazz band called Listen. and was part of the Boz Scaggs band. And if you know the Boz Scaggs songs on the album Moments, We Were Only Sweetheart, like great flute solos by Mel Martin. So this is a fantastic record. This, again, KSAN Radio in San Francisco got a lot of airplay. He was playing around the Bay Area all the time, living there. And he wrote a song that's on here that opens up called San Francisco FM Blues. And of course, the FM radio stations in San Francisco had to play that song, but it never quite had the sales it should have. And these are two fantastic records. Now, Texas Tornado is the name of this album that would later become the name of the supergroup that he put together in 1989 with Augie Myers, the organ player from Sir Douglass Quintet, Flaco Jimenez, a great accordion player who played with Ry Cooder. Ry Cooder really kind of brought him to light was on some of his records. And Freddie Fender, the great kind of country Texas singer, Freddie Fender. So great cultural mix of music, cultural mix sound, two fantastic records, just joyous records, soulful country, Texas style. And then he did one on Warner Brothers, I think only one, and this is Groover's Paradise. Again, another kind of the whole San Francisco sound. Interesting note about this is produced by Doug Clifford, who is the drummer for Creedence Clearwater Revival, and Stu Cook is on here, the bass player from Creedence Clearwater. There's Stu Cook, and there's producer and drummer Doug Clifford. Fun record as well. Now, an artist that I really want to get into more of his music. I've had so many of his records over the years, but now I'm down to these. But I think he's an important artist, and in the whole thing, Americana. Now, I mentioned them going back to Tacoma Records and issuing that greatest hits comp of Sir Douglass, and the band reformed, and this was put out by Tacoma Records in 1981, and this is called Border Wave. It doesn't have quite the intensity of the original band in the 60s, but it's still quite a good record. So that's the reunion of the Sir Douglass Quintet, Border Wave on Tacoma Records. So he hung around the Bay Area for a while and then returned to Texas, ended up in Austin where he played clubs and venues for most of his life. He died at 58 years old, unfortunately. I think he had a heart attack in his hotel room. And I'm a big fan of Doug Sahm, Sir Douglass Quintet, great performer. Seek out online videos, Austin City Limits. I think there's a great performance of him. And look at the old 60s videos of them doing Mendocino and She's About a Mover. She's About a Mover, what a great single. Great singles band, but someone I wish I had seen early in the day. But of course, I was way too young, 10, 11, 12 years old, to really go check that stuff out then. Anyway, that's the featurette in this Mazzy mix number 15. Okay, here are a few pulls that I am keeping from my friend Coleman, from the Coleman collection. Again, my late friend, and curating and selling off and keeping and organizing his collection. So here's some records that I've had for the most part, but different variations of it, except for two instances here. And let's start with this. Of course, I've had Moby Grape's debut album with the famous cover photograph by Jim Marshall, flipping the bird before they retouched out the finger on the washboard. This is one of the great rock and roll San Francisco debuts ever. And this is a monocopy, and I've never owned a monocopy. It does not include the poster, and I'm bummed out about that, but it's an OG, a 2i Columbia. Always nice to see that label. You've seen it many times, but and this rocks. This is really it's a good record anyway. I don't think I've ever heard a mono, and I know Coleman and I just have discussed this album so many times, and love that record, rockin' record. Of course, everybody knows Disraeli Gears, but this is an early, if not first press mono as well, UK copy. Look how bright that cover is. reaction. I still have to look it up to make sure, but it's still an early pressing, and it's clean as hell. I haven't listened to this yet, but the thing about Disraeli Gears, it's not a stunningly great recorded record, but it does sound good, and it's a good rockin' record. So I think I've heard CD versions in mono, but I'm looking forward to this. And the cover, with a few exceptions, is in really great shape. And of course, the UK glossy cover pops more than the American edition. So there's your mono cover, and there's Disraeli Gears. And the rainbow has a mustache. You know, there's always this thing about RLs. I want Led Zeppelin 2 RL. Well, I got 2 copies. One I sent along to someone who purchased it, and the worst of the 2 I kept at this point. But that's not what I'm talking about here. Another RL. If you like this album, you should seek out an RL of the self-titled band album. This is their second album. Probably their best album. This is obviously after Music from Big Pink. The RL is that kind of puke green label, and RL in the dead wax, and it does have a great sound, and it does have some more punch for this type of record. But what a beautiful record. Every song on this record is fantastic. Across the Great Divide. Rag, Mama Rag. The Night They Drove All Dixie Down. Up on Cripple Creek. Jemima Surrenders. Unfaithful Service. King Arthur Will Surely Come. King Harvest Will Surely Come. An all-time favorite record of mine, the band's self-titled second album, and this is a Robert Ludwig cut. People don't look for these in the bins. Look for that RL in the dead wax. Now this record I've never had on vinyl, and 1994, this is Back to the Bone. I've had this record. This is a CD, came out as a 2-record set. One record is live with a full audience, and the other record is more intimate at Conch Studios, Ray and Dave Davis studio in England, and it's a double CD, but this is a segment of that double CD that came out on vinyl. I think it would be fabulous for them to issue this on a double record set, 2 or 3 record set, whatever is needed to put this on vinyl. But I've never had this, haven't listened to this yet. I know the music from that set, but anything Kinks, and you know, the Kinks fan I am, I can't believe I never had this on vinyl. But you know, because my friend is here now, so thanks, Coleman. I really appreciate that. I kept this, and I'll probably listen to it once, but this is special. Beyond the Fringe in mono on Parlophone Records. Great comedy troupe in the UK. It did a series of performances, and of course, most Americans will probably only know Dudley Moore and Peter Cook, but of course, Alan Bennett and Jonathan Miller are a part of this troupe. This performance piece is humorous. British humor at its finest. Beyond the Fringe was a theater piece, a comic theater piece, and the record was produced by, of course, your friend and mine, Beatle producer George Martin. So it's kind of something I really enjoy having. This is a mono copy, and I love the graphics on this cover. And of course, there they are. One of the Fab Four, even before Monty Python. From early 60s, pre-Beatles, 1961, I think this first came out. I've talked about this record before. This is a 12-inch record, and I haven't shown a lot of the Fleetwood Mac around the period of Rumors, but I used to have this record, and it's a 12-inch single 45, but mono and stereo, and it has You Can Go Your Own Way in Silver Springs, and it's on 45 RPM. It was a promotion piece. This goes for over $50 now. Find it. It's incredible. I remember getting this record, this 12-inch single, before Rumors came out as a promo from a friend at Warner Brothers, and I put on Go Your Own Way. You know that song. The drums, the power of that song just rocks the house. And That's one of those, this is one of those 12-inch pop singles, rock singles that I used to blast through my JBL 100s in the 70s at home and drive the neighbors downstairs crazy, but I couldn't help it. I didn't do it past like 9 o'clock at that volume, but this is a great version. The B-side was Silver Springs, and up to this time it wasn't on an album. It was only the B-side of the single and the 12-inch, but fantastic, powerful, and really well mastered 12-inch single, Go Your Own Way, Fleetwood Mac. Promo copy. This never came out commercially as far as I remember. And lastly in this Coleman selection, I'm showing this just because I've never had this album, Huey Lewis and the News. I'm not a huge fan of theirs. I think, you know, it's fun, the heart of rock and roll, heart of soul, I Want a New Drug. Huge record by Huey Lewis and the News. And the main reason I pulled this for myself, first of all, it's a beautiful copy in shrink, the $6.99 price tag on it. This record was huge everywhere in America, and especially in the Bay Area. Huey Lewis and the News would sometimes do a cappella versions of the Star Spangled Banner before San Francisco Giants games. But I'm showing this because when Coffee Dave and I went down to curate and then pick up the Coleman collection about 6 weeks ago, we went into the bar. I showed him the bar where this in Mill Valley, California, called the 2 a.m. Club. It's in Mill Valley, not far from where I lived, actually up on Mount Tamalpais for when I was 22 with my girlfriend for a year. And I used to go to this place all the time. It still looks exactly the same. Dave and I actually, when we went in, we sat at these two seats, and I was telling him about this. Of course, they have a picture of this hanging up on the wall there. Pool tables are still there. The only thing different, they have some, instead of these old TV sets, they have big flat screen sports bar type scenes. And old funky club. If you go there, go next door to Joe's Tacos, amazing taqueria. But I had to take this more for sentimental purposes. I'll play it once and it'll be a fun listen, but it's not one I would probably play a lot, but I loved having my collection. And thanks, Coleman. And I think Coleman and I actually went to the 2 a.m. Club at least once. But I used to go there a lot when I lived in Mill Valley during that year and just other visits.